You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
Hello. We're standing on Poland Street, which is one of the streets which runs down from Oxford Street in London. And we're standing opposite number 28. Now, the original building has been demolished here, and this it's now a kind of stack of offices with a glass door and not a particularly prepossessing frontage. But this is the original site and the original street number of one of William Blake's homes. William Blake lived here with his new young wife, Catherine, between 1785 and 1790 for 5 years. And there's a couple of remarkable things about this location. The first is this rather wonderful coincidence that I love, which is just down Poland Street, just a few doors down, is a pub called the King's Arms Pub, which would have been there when the Blakes were living up the road. And just a few years before they moved here, 1781, and there's a blue plaque on the pub which marks this, in 1781, the Ancient Order of Druids was revived in a room at the King's Arms Pub. Now, there was quite an interest in Druids at the end of the 18th century. They didn't actually do that much sort of pagan activity. It was more of a kind of, it was a resurrected word for a kind of fellowship of men, a kind of alternative to Freemasonry. But it's a remarkable coincidence, I think, because although Blake was never a druid himself, he was fascinated by the idea of druids and the history of druids. And in many of his poems, the druids appear as rather negative characters, actually. I think he saw them as the first kind of lawgivers, the first people who set down chains of rationality on the country. But the most extraordinary coincidence about the Ancient Order of Druids being founded in the pub is that it was founded on the 28th of November, which is William Blake's birthday. What are the chances? Anyway, talking about Blake and his wife Catherine being here, it was in this building, 28 Poland Street, that Blake invented his extraordinary and revolutionary printmaking technique. He invented a new way of making prints. Normally, when you make a print, what you do is you etch a design into a plate, a copper plate perhaps. Then you press ink, you roll ink onto the surface and you press it into those little grooves that you've etched. And then you press that plate onto paper and the ink comes out and you make a printing. And that's how some books are still printed. But Blake had a different technique. He would draw freehand onto a copper plate a design, and he would write in mirror writing his poetry onto this copper plate. But he would be writing with a waxy substance that was resistant to acid. Then he would coat the whole surface of the plate in acid, and the rest of the plate would be reduced, leaving his design standing proud, kind of a relief sculpture almost of his writing and the design. Then he would hand paint this raised design with colours and press that onto paper. So this was a way of revealing an image out of the plate, like a sculpture, rather than pressing one into it. And it allowed him to hand paint every single copy, every single page that he printed. So if you look at early copies of the Songs of Innocence and Experience, every one is different because he printed them in this special way which required hand colouring every time you made an impression. It was also in this house that William Blake nursed his beloved younger brother Robert as he died of tuberculosis. And that must have been very traumatic for him. He was his favourite brother. They were very close. And Blake always said that after Robert had died, he would come back to him in his dreams and in his visions. And Blake always credited Robert with giving him his best artistic ideas, even though he was dead. So this ghostly brother would come back and give Blake his inspiration. But it was here that he died, and it was here that Blake nursed him.